Hey guys, tonight we're spending the day inside one of the most intense and mysterious institutions in America, where teenagers willingly hand over their freedom, their phones, and even their hairlines. You probably won't survive this. It's your very first full day as a West Point cadet, and from the moment your eyes flick open, no alarm needed. You can feel in your chest. Today's going to chew you up and swallow the pieces with boot polish. You're not even sure where your toothbrush is anymore. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's fun to see who else is trying to fall asleep to stories about voluntary suffering. Now, dim the lights, pull the blankets closer, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie perfectly still. It's not even 5 a.m. Outside your window, the Hudson River is wrapped in a lazy mist, like it's still dreaming. But you're not. You're hyper-aware, adrenaline simmering, ears straining for the bugle that hasn't sounded yet. Your body aches from yesterday's in-processing gauntlet. Gear issue, blood tests, a blur of contracts and shouted instructions. And your mind is full of questions. Mostly just, why did I sign up for this again? But there's no time for reflection, because before that brass bugle screams reveille, you need to get moving. Early movement is the difference between sort of ready and publicly flayed. You slide out of bed in complete silence because that's what you were told. The moment your boots hit the floor, the performance begins. Every motion is watched. Even now, before dawn, you have this creeping suspicion that some upperclassman is hiding in a closet with a clipboard and a stopwatch. The room is freezing. West Point barracks have this charming way of being both too hot and too cold, depending on the season. And the season doesn't care if you're tired. Your sheets are tight, hospital corners drilled into your muscle memory yesterday, like it was a combat tactic. You're still not sure whether you're supposed to bounce a quarter on them or salute the pillow, but you made the bed anyway. Silently, you shuffle to the sink. Communal bathrooms are just down the hallway. Remember those for summer camp? Now add 25 other sleep-deprived adults, one flickering fluorescent light, and a schedule tighter than a drill sergeant's fade. There's a line already. Of course there's a line. You brush your teeth with mechanical precision. There's no luxury of extended oral hygiene here. This is speed brushing, with foam still dripping as you yank on your cadet uniform. Shave? You already did. Yesterday. Do it again. Shave until it looks like you were born hairless. They warned you. No stubble will be tolerated, even if your genetics disagree. As you button your gray West Point blouse, you try to remember everything they told you in yesterday's uniform briefing. Gig line straight. Shirt tucked like it owes you money. Belt centered. Brass gleaming. There's a crease you missed on your trousers, but you don't have time to fix it now. Just pray no one notices. And then, blare. Reveille. It's not gentle. It's not polite. It doesn't care that your ears are ringing from yesterday's rifle orientation. The bugle erupts through the speaker system like an air raid siren dressed in nostalgia. You freeze for a millisecond before launching an emotion, boots pounding, heart thudding against the starch of your uniform. You've got exactly 7 minutes to get to formation. Outside, the sky's still a dusky blue. The flag's not even up yet. You fall into rank next to your platoon. 50 cadets, identical in height and misery. No one talks. Talking is forbidden unless ordered. Eye contact is discouraged unless your eyes are at parade rest, which means lock forward like you're challenging God to blink first. A cold breeze slices through your uniform, but you hold still. Stillness is everything. Even shivering feels like failure here. Somewhere behind you, a late cadet's boots slap against the pavement. You wince internally. Poor soul. 1 second late, and their punishment becomes a group punishment. Because everything here is collective. If one suffers, everyone suffers. Historians still argue whether this approach to training builds camaraderie, or just makes you hate everyone equally. A grizzled sergeant steps forward. He has the gravelly voice of someone who's eaten a cigar for breakfast and bench-pressed regret. He eyes you like he can smell weakness through your pores. You're not even awake yet, he growls. But don't worry, we're going to fix that. He shouts commands. The entire formation snaps to attention. You snap too, just half a second slower than the rest. It's noticed. Everything is noticed. You're sweating already, and it's not from the weather. Then comes the cadet creed. You barely memorized it last night, repeating it like a prayer to avoid embarrassment. Something about duty, honor, country, spoken with the forced solemnity of people who'd rather be asleep. It's strange how quickly ritual becomes muscle memory. Already, it's starting to sink in. And yet, beneath the surface, you're still trying to process what this place is. West Point isn't just a college. It's not just a military base. It's a machine built from centuries of tradition. Founded in 1802, it's America's oldest continuously operating military academy. Even Benedict Arnold once commanded here. Before, well, they don't talk about that much. The very sidewalks you're standing on were walked by Ulysses S. Grant and Dwight D. Eisenhower. Their portraits stare down from the mess hall walls with ghostly disapproval. George Patton supposedly still haunts the rifle range, though that might just be a rumor cooked up by upperclassmen to freak out plebeians like you. The formation ends. The sergeant dismisses you with a bark, and you're off again. Now to morning chores. No one told you that being a cadet also meant being a part-time janitor. Floors must be buffed, trash sorted, shoe polish applied with sacred reverence. A guy down the hall tried to get clever yesterday. Hid his dirty laundry in the ceiling tile. He was discovered within 10 minutes. Rumor is he now guards the third-floor urinals with a toothbrush. Nobody has confirmed this. Nobody dares ask. At last, after what feels like hours, you glance at your watch. 6:11. You've only been awake for 1 hour, and yet you've already accomplished more than you did in your entire last semester of high school. There's a strange pride blooming in your chest. A sick kind of joy, like you're part of something ancient and brutal, and maybe just a little noble. Or maybe you're just delirious from sleep deprivation. You don't walk to the bathrooms this time. You jog. Everything is faster now. The sun hasn't even crested the Hudson Valley cliffs, but your day is already in second gear. Behind you, a sergeant's voice echoes down the hallway. 5 minutes to inspection. Cadets, if your sink's not clean enough to drink from, guess what? You're drinking from it. You believe him. You burst into the communal latrine. Walls tiled in something between government beige and motivational despair. There's no privacy here. Just a dozen cadets elbowing each other for sink space while steam from rush showers fogs up the mirrors. You wedge yourself into a gap, half blind from sleep and fluorescent light. The faucet water is cold and unforgiving. You splash it on your face, more out of ceremony than function. And then you go for it. The West Point speed shower. Here's how that works. You get 2 minutes max. You wash all the military-appropriate areas, avoid slipping on someone's shampoo bottle, and pretend the water pressure isn't a passive-aggressive insult. Soap? Generic. Shampoo? Dispensers are mysteriously empty. Towel? It's still damp from yesterday because laundry's rationed and the dryers are old enough to vote. One cadet next to you is humming the Army song through clenched teeth. Another is talking to himself in third person. Let's go, Simmons. Get done, Simmons. He's either trying to psych himself up or actively losing his grip. Could be both. By the time you're back in your room, your boots leave a wet trail on the barracks floor. You towel off while standing, half hopping to shimmy your uniform pants over damp legs. And then it's time for what might be the single cruelest part of your day so far. Polishing boots at full speed. See, your combat boots aren't just shoes. They're symbols. Dirty boots mean you don't care. Perfect boots mean maybe, just maybe, you'll survive until graduation. But there's no time for a proper polish. So you slap on a quick coat of shine like you're buttering toast with a deadline. It's not perfect. You know that. The cadre will know it too. Make peace with failure. someone once said. Historians still argue whether that phrase came from General MacArthur or just a stressed-out cadet with uneven laces. You make it downstairs again, barely, and fall in a morning formation. For the second time in an hour, you're standing rigid in the cold, blinking at the rising sun like it's your enemy. And in some ways, it is. Daylight means visibility. Visibility means scrutiny. Company 10 hut. Everyone snaps to attention. Then comes the inspection gauntlet. A senior cadet with too many brass pins and not enough mercy walks slowly down the row. His eyes are daggers, scanning uniforms, collars, boots. He stops in front of someone next to you. "Cadet," he says, voice syrupy with menace. "Is that a string hanging from your button?" The poor guy doesn't answer fast enough. Drop. Front leaning rest position. Begin. That's military for. You're doing push-ups now, in the dirt, while everyone watches. Your own turn comes. You stand perfectly still, not even blinking. The inspecting cadet glares at you like you've committed a war crime in your belt loop. Then, miraculously, he moves on. You passed. You don't celebrate. You don't even exhale. You just stand there, praying the rest of the company survives too, because you've heard what happens when nobody passes inspection. Eventually, finally, you're dismissed for breakfast. And welcome to the mess hall. It's a massive, echoing cathedral of noise and starch. The walls are lined with paintings of former generals and mythologized battles, all watching as you carry your tray like it's a landmine. You follow the flow, sliding into place in the chow line. Here's your breakfast. Rehydrated scrambled eggs, probably real. 2 slices of toast, definitely dry. A mysterious sausage-like object, best not to ask. Coffee, weak but sacred. You're expected to sit at the edge of your seat, back straight, tray aligned to the edge of the table. Eating is a timed event. It's not when you're hungry. It's when you're told. You have exactly 8 minutes. Upperclassmen sit at the table with you. They eat fast, talk louder, and ask trick questions. What's the third stanza of the chorus? One barks. You blink. I don't know yet, sir. He glares. You will. They like doing this, testing you, even during meals. It's all part of developing you as a leader. Or maybe they're just still mad about the string on your button. Either way, your sausage goes cold. Here's a quirky fact. In the 1960s, cadets at West Point were required to memorize the entire menu before stepping into the mess hall. If you didn't know what was being served, you didn't eat. That tradition's mostly gone now. Mostly. Still, today you are expected to memorize something. The names of everyone at your table. Last names, hometowns, class years. You're quizzed on it mid-bite. Where's Cadet Sanchez from? Houston, Texas, sir. And his roommate. I don't know, sir. Wrong answer. No speaking for the rest of the meal. You eat the rest of your toast in mournful silence. Eyes on your tray. Somewhere down the table, someone laughs at a joke you weren't allowed to hear. Then the signal comes. Everyone stands in unison, trays up. You march them back, rinse, stack, turn, and fall in line again. Like ants in a sacred colony, performing rituals that trace back to decades of tradition and trauma. The day rolls on. You glance at your watch. 7:39. You've had a full-blown inspection, a combat speed shower, boot camp posture drills, and a breakfast fit for a World War I trench cook. You've been awake less than 3 hours. And now it's time for classes. At West Point, the classrooms are colder than the barracks, and somehow even more intimidating. The walls are bare except for quotes from military philosophers and engineering formulas that look like punishment. You find your sign desk. It's wooden, minimal, and smells like chalkboard erasers and stress. You sit. The professor walks in. He's a lieutenant colonel with a Harvard degree and the posture of a statue. He opens the class with, "Who here thinks they understand projectile motion?" You raise your hand. Mistake. You. Come to the board. Teach it. And that's how you end up writing equations about initial velocity and drag coefficients, while 50 other cadets stare daggers into your back. You're not even sure you're in the right class anymore. But that's West Point. Every day is both survival and test, sometimes literal. Your professor launches into a lecture that weaves Newtonian physics with tactical artillery simulations. You're expected to understand both, because modern warfare demands brains, not just biceps. Still, your biceps ache. Your brain? Even more so. There's a knock on the door. Another cadet walks in carrying a plastic spine and a chart of ligaments. Wrong room. Pre-med cadet. No one blinks. You take notes with the fury of a stenographer on caffeine, but the words blur. Equations. Ballistics. Wind resistance. You write down, air pressure equals sucky, and hope no one ever reads your notebook. Then, mercifully, the bell rings. It's 9:25. You've survived inspection, mess hall, formation, and your first academic ego annihilation. The day is just beginning. Back outside, you blink at the light. The sun has finally climbed over the hills, washing the granite buildings in a golden shine that's too beautiful for what comes next. Because now it's time for drill. And drill doesn't care how full your brain is from physics. Drill wants your spine straight, your arms swinging at exactly 6 inches, and your pivot so sharp it could slice cheese. Drill is the purest form of suffering that doesn't technically count as cardio. You line up on the parade ground, an enormous, sun-bleached expanse known officially as the plain, but more commonly as that place where dreams go to sweat and die. From the edge, you hear the rhythmic bark of a senior cadet. Company, form on me. You move. Not fast enough. Never fast enough. You scramble into your platoon's formation, trying to align yourself by feel alone. Cadet vision means you're not supposed to look left or right. You just know where your squad mates are. Spoiler, you don't. Dress right. Dress. Everyone sticks out their right arms, trying to create a perfect line. A breeze tugs at your uniform blouse. Your boots sink slightly into the grass. Across the field, you spot another squad fumbling their alignment, and you feel a flash of grim comfort. At least it's not just you. Ready. Front. Arm snap down. Feet lock. The senior cadet pacing in front of you looks like he sleeps in his uniform. His voice is equal parts gravel and judgment. You're not civilians anymore. You're instruments of discipline. That means you march like instruments. Precision. Pride. Silence. You do your best. Really. Left face. Forward march. Column right. Halt. You try to sync your movement to the cadence echoing off the walls. Left. Left. Left, right, left. But your arm swing is off, and your foot lands early. And when it's time to perform a column half left, your brain briefly panics. Half what now? And you pivot like someone trying to escape an awkward conversation at a wedding. You hear the mistake before you feel it. A senior cadet behind you hisses, "Fix yourself." No yelling. That would be too easy. No, it's the whisper of doom. Proof that your error was seen and recorded in the book of eternal shame. From the corner of your eye, you spot Cadet Fowler, tall, graceful, textbook posture, gliding like he was born under a parade flag. You hate him just a little bit, but mostly you just want to copy him. Fun historical side note. During the early 1900s, West Point required cadets to drill 6 days a week, including Sundays if your posture was insufficiently martial. One instructor even insisted that cadets practice while balancing books on their heads, which, yes, caused concussions when they dropped during a spin maneuver. The tradition died out when someone cracked their nose open mid-parade. Back in your reality, someone in front of you stumbles. Everything stops. Senior cadet walks up, slowly. Too slowly. "Cadet," he says it like a slur. "Are you confused? Or just trying to ruin my morning?" The poor guy mumbles something. It doesn't matter. He's doing push-ups now. You don't even flinch. You just fix your stance, eyes locked forward, trying to will your body into a shape that looks like honor. Your boots are heavy. The sun is cruel. But you hold. Then comes the weapons drill. You're issued a demilitarized M14 rifle. Not because it shoots, but because it weighs 9 pounds and builds character. You hold it with reverence, like a sacred burden. Port arms. You swing it up. Order arms. You slam it down. You cycle through the commands for what feels like hours. By minute 20, your fingers are trembling. The stock is slippery with sweat. You're trying not to let it show. The senior cadet calls you out. You, the one trying to cradle it like a teddy bear. You blink. Is he talking to you? Yes, you. This is not a Build-A-Bear. Reset. You reset. Everyone resets. The whole platoon starts over. Again and again, until the weapon feels like an extension of your shoulder socket. Until you start dreaming of right shoulder arms and snapping into parade rest in your sleep. And then, mercifully, the drill ends. But you don't get to relax. Now comes the cadet chain of command, which means yelling. Not random yelling. Targeted, structured yelling. From the upperclassman assigned to be your personal academic shepherd, an emotional demolition specialist. Cadet Sergeant Mangum is yours. She is 5'7" of fury wrapped in regulation gray. Her eyes scan you like she's already drafted your performance review, and it doesn't look good. Cadet, she says, what's the 5th general order? You fumble. I will report all violations of orders I am instructed to enforce. She narrows her eyes. And the 3rd, wrong. Do you even know who you're supposed to be? You're now the focus of a developmental counseling session, which is code for verbal Aikido. You're marched to a shadowy corner of the field where you stand at attention, while Cadet Sergeant Mangum delivers a masterclass in motivational annihilation. She tells you you're here to learn what it means to lead, but you can't even memorize 5 orders. She reminds you that one day, people may follow your orders under fire. And what then? You nod, swallowing shame like dry toast. She leans in. You think this is hard? This is kindergarten. Welcome to the Corps of Cadets. The irony, you'll thank her in 2 years. Historians still argue whether West Point's upperclassmen leadership system creates resilient officers or just really good suppressors of emotion. But no one denies its effectiveness. You mess up. You get corrected. Loudly. And then you try again. Louder. Straighter. Better. Eventually, Cadet Mangum dismisses you with a curt nod. You jog back to the formation. Time check. 10:53. You've marched, pivoted, saluted, sweated, and been personally reconstructed by someone barely older than you. And now you get to march back across the sun-soaked plain to do drill again. Because apparently, your first left face wasn't good enough. Back you go. Same field. Same sun. Same boots that now feel like they've been forged from melted sandbags and regret. But there's a difference this time. Now you know what's coming. And that somehow makes it worse. Because drill, round 2, it's formational discipline under pressure. That means they've added a twist. This time, every mistake you make comes with instant consequences. Drop your rifle. Do push-ups. Step out of sync. Hold a sandbag above your head until your arms forget their name. But first, alignment. Again, you form up. The cadence collar barks. Your brain tries to retranslate the military dialect it still doesn't fully speak. Column of 3s. Squad leaders post. You hope someone else knows what that means, because you're just faking confidence now. Faking is an essential skill here. And then, somehow, you're marching again. Your thighs ache, your feet throb, but you start to feel it, the strange rhythm of it all. Your mind switches off, your body takes over. March, swing, pivot, reset, and for a fleeting second, you feel kind of invincible. Quirky fact break. Did you know cadets used to march with real rifles until 1975? During one infamous review, a cadet accidentally discharged a round right into the reviewing stand. No one was hurt, but the colonel spilled his coffee and never came back. Today's rifles are disabled. Safer, but somehow still more painful. The senior officer observing today's drill is a command sergeant major with a chest full of ribbons and a stare that could slow time. He walks between the columns, eyes tracking every movement. He stops beside your rank. Cadet, is that the angle of your arm swing? That's what you're offering your country. You stiffen. No, command sergeant major. Then fix it, or go home. You fix it. You do 40 more minutes of this. Then, blessedly, you're dismissed for now. But the morning isn't over, because next is a cherished West Point tradition, the barracks inspection. That's right. You go from marching like a human metronome to becoming a domestic goddess in combat boots. Your room has to look perfect. No, perfecter than perfect. You jog back to the barracks in a tight column. Some cadet is humming the Imperial March under his breath. It's oddly appropriate. As you reach your room, you yank open the door and freeze. It's chaos. Your roommate left a sock on the desk. The toothpaste cap is missing. One of the towels is slightly off-center. The inspection is in 11 minutes. You scramble. You scrub. You polish your doorknob with the inside of your uniform shirt. You fold your blanket with engineering precision. Your toothbrush. You align it on your desk next to your pen, both angled exactly 45 degrees. Your mirror has no streaks. Your boots are squared off. Your laptop is hidden like contraband. The room smells like lemon disinfectant and nervous sweat. And then the knock. Inspection. 2 upperclassmen enter. Clipboards out. Faces blank. They look around like CIA agents analyzing a hostage video. They check behind your bed frame, inside your drawers, under your socks. One lifts your laundry bag like it might detonate. Then, whose desk is this? You step forward. Mine, ma'am. She gestures. Paperclip. You look. One lonely paperclip, just barely hanging off the edge of your desk. Treason in metallic form. She doesn't say anything, just writes something on her clipboard. You're doomed. The inspection ends. They leave. Your roommate whispers, "We're done for." You nod, too tired to argue. Historians still argue whether this obsessive cleanliness traces back to West Point's roots in Enlightenment-era engineering schools, or does some primal military need to control the one thing war never could, clutter. Either way, your trash can has never been so aggressively scrutinized. Now it's lunchtime. You march to the mess hall again. This time, it feels less terrifying. Maybe because your stomach is louder than your fear. The menu is whatever it is. Probably chicken. Probably beige. You eat it quickly, eyes flicking from tray to tray, identifying which cadets look like they just cried in the bathroom and which ones are still riding that post-drill adrenaline. Then something unexpected happens. You laugh. A cadet across the table drops a grape, and everyone watches it roll the length of the bench like it's carrying nuclear secrets. You suppress a giggle, but it bubbles out anyway. An upperclassman narrows his eyes. Cadet, are you enjoying yourself? You stiffen. No, sir. Correct answer. And yet, you kind of are, because buried beneath the stress and sweat is a strange feeling. A pride. You survived the morning. You've been yelled at, drilled, inspected, and shamed, and you're still standing. In fact, you're sitting, and eating, and breathing. That's victory. Time check, 12:47. You don't get a nap, because next up is afternoon classroom block. Today's topic, military history. Your instructor is a young captain who loves quoting Clausewitz and doing terrible Churchill impressions. He starts with, "War is the continuation of politics by other means." And you, cadets, are the punctuation marks. No one knows what that means, but it sounds important. The class is part lecture, part Socratic chaos. You're asked to compare Caesar's campaigns in Gaul to the U.S. counterinsurgency doctrine in Afghanistan. You're pretty sure Caesar didn't have drones, but you bluff through it. You raise your hand, offer a half-formed opinion on the ethics of empire, and receive a thoughtful nod. Then, Cadet, what's the difference between tactical and strategic surprise? You blink. Tactical is smaller. The class laughs. The instructor grins. That's not wrong. It's just sad. You scribble notes until your wrist hurts. The PowerPoint slides blur into a haze of bullet points and maps. Someone next to you is drooling on their sleeve. Someone else is blinking like Morse code for help. You survive the period. As the instructor wraps up, he drops today's quirky tidbit. Did you know Napoleon was once denied admission to the French Royal Military School because his handwriting was too ugly? True story. Everyone chuckles, then files out like a herd of exhausted goats. You glance at your own handwriting. Still bad. You'll take it. As you step back into the sunlight, you realize something strange. The afternoon feels lighter. Not easier, but clearer. You're halfway through your first day, and you haven't quit yet. You're sitting on a splintery bench in the glaring sun, clutching a worn spiral notebook and an ink-stained pen. It's only 1,300 hours, but you've been up since before dawn, and now you're required to make your brain function like an Ivy League scholar despite the fact your calves still haven't stopped twitching from the obstacle course. Welcome to academic integration, where your mind is about to be smoked just as thoroughly as your body was this morning. Today's class, the military art of Clausewitz and the ethics of leadership. Sounds impressive. Feels intimidating. Your instructor, Major Carlyle, is a wiry, bespectacled man with the voice of a baritone priest and the piercing gaze of someone who spent 20 years reading the fine print of war. He doesn't yell. He just stares at you until you begin evaluating every life decision that led to this exact moment. He opens the seminar with a quote. War is merely the continuation of policy by other means. You've heard that one before, probably during your application essays. But now it hits different. There's a nervous cough from a cadet beside you, followed by the distant clatter of another group marching back from the field. The classroom is outdoors today because West Point enjoys making everything just a bit harder than it needs to be. The conversation moves fast. You try to track the flow. One moment you're debating the morality of drone strikes. The next you're talking about the Peloponnesian War. Did Pericles have an honor code? What would Thucydides say about social media psyops? These are not questions you ever thought you'd ask yourself. Major Carlyle pauses and stares directly at you. Cadet, what's your take? Your brain short circuits, then starts bargaining with the ghost of every high school history teacher you've ever ignored. You offer a clumsy opinion about proportionality and modern ethics. The major nods. Passable. You feel both validated and judged at the same time. The academic demands at West Point don't ease up just because your uniform's soaked with sweat or your boots have swallowed 3 pounds of gravel. You're expected to juggle engineering equations, military doctrine, constitutional law, and the fact that your bunkmate snores like a malfunctioning fax machine. The discipline you apply to your rifle drills is now aimed at your GPA. In the barracks later, you flip open your history textbook and stare blankly at the chapter titled Napoleon's Campaigns and the Modern Concept of Shock. It's in moments like this that you remember. This isn't just school. It's schooling for war. Still, there's a kind of camaraderie and confusion. You and your squad mates whisper through readings, share summaries, and invent mnemonic devices that would horrify actual scholars but somehow work. Clausewitz says war is politics with explosions. Someone jokes. Put that on a t-shirt. Another mutters. Here's your first mainstream historical fact of the day. West Point has produced more Rhodes Scholars than any other military academy in the world. So yes, brain power is a weapon here. And your quirky tidbit. In the 1800s, cadets at West Point weren't allowed to have forks. Just knives and spoons. Apparently, they couldn't be trusted with all three. Historians still argue whether it was about discipline, cost, or fear of utensil-based duels. You collapse onto your bunk by 22:30, your head spinning with geopolitics and probability equations. The day has left you physically worn and mentally pickled. You barely notice the lights go out, but as your eyes drift shut, you hear someone down the hall whisper, "We have a physics quiz tomorrow." Ah yes, sweet dreams of Newtonian terror. 0430 hours. Your alarm doesn't go off because it never got the chance. A steel trash can lid gets slammed against a metal door down the hallway. It sounds like Judgment Day in a tin factory. Rise and shine, gentlemen and ladies, bellows a voice from hell's own subwoofer. You leap out of bed before your conscious mind catches up. Feet hit the cold tile. Shirt goes on backwards. Someone's boot sails across the room, and nobody even flinches. This isn't just a wake-up call. It's reveille with psychological warfare built in. You form up outside in the gray mist. Today's agenda is etched in cryptic bullet points on the whiteboard in your squad leader's hands. Tactical movement drills, CBRN familiarization, confidence course, values reflection period, evening fire watch rotation. Every word sounds like it was designed to make your body or soul ache, or both. Let's talk CBRN. That stands for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. A charming reminder that modern war doesn't just involve bullets. It involves invisible, existential nightmares. You get issued AM-50 gas mask, a clunky beast with foggy lenses, and a rubber seal that smells like a tire fire. You march to the gas chamber, which is actually just a dark concrete box tucked into a forested edge of campus. You're told it's only CS gas, essentially tear gas used for training. You watch other squads going before you. Some emerge coughing, eyes watering, mucus streaming in rivers. One guy is laughing and crying at the same time. It's horrifying and hilarious. Inside the chamber, you recite your name, rank, and social security number. Then the masks come off. Instant regret. The gas claws its way down your throat like hot glass shards. Your sinuses erupt. Your eyes scream. You feel like your soul has allergies. You try to remain dignified, but end up doubling over, coughing out your ancestors. Outside again, you laugh hysterically with your squad mates. Somehow, this suffering has made you family. Next comes the confidence course. Don't let the name fool you. It's not there to build confidence. It's there to test it. You scale slippery wooden walls, crawl through gravel under barbed wire, leap across rope swings and climb towers that look like leftover sets from a medieval siege movie. You're not competing against the course. You're competing against gravity, your own lungs, and the whispers in your head telling you to quit. The final obstacle is a 40-foot rappel wall nicknamed the Widowmaker. An upperclassman hooks you into a harness and says, "Trust your gear. Trust your body. Don't look down." So naturally, you look down. Everything slows. You grip the rope. You breathe. And you step off the edge. In that moment, dangling in space with nothing but rope, sweat, and grit, you realize you are no longer the same kid who arrived here clutching a duffel bag and a high school transcript. You're transforming into someone else. Someone tougher. Someone harder to scare. Later that night, during fire watch, you sit quietly in the hallway while your platoon sleeps. It's your turn to walk the barracks, making sure everything is secure, no fires break out, no rules are broken. It's boring, monotonous, sacred. You walk the hallway slowly, boots echoing against concrete. You straighten a crooked name tag on a wall locker. You see someone's photo of their family taped above a bed. You whisper their names in your head. In this silence, you learn something important. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's about honor, about protecting the people who trust you. Here's your historical fact for the day. During the American Civil War, West Point graduates led both the Union and Confederate armies. Brother against brother. Same classroom, different battlefields. And your strange tidbit, at one point in the 1800s, West Point's cadets staged a full-blown riot over eggnog. Yes, eggnog. The eggnog riot of 1826 began when cadets smuggled whiskey into the academy to spike their holiday drinks, ending in a drunken brawl that saw dozens court-martialed. You chuckle softly in the hallway, remembering that. Then the hour shifts. Another cadet appears. Your watch is over. You return to bed, bone-tired, reeking of CS gas, and smiling. Because somehow, in this crucible of pain and duty, you're learning who you are. The calendar says it's been only 6 weeks since you arrived. Your body says it's been a decade. Your boots no longer look new. They've taken on the color of sweat, mud, spilled rations, and punishment. Your fingers instinctively tighten every strap, every belt, every collar button, because by now, you've been screamed at enough to know that loose gear is not just lazy. It's lethal. You're starting to recognize the rhythm of this place. The morning chaos no longer terrifies you. You wake up before the trash can lid hits the floor. You move with intention. You help the freshman cadet who can't find his boot. You memorize today's mission brief before the officer even posts it. There's a strange pride in that. This week, the training emphasis is land navigation. You're handed a protractor, a 1:50,000 topographical map, a compass, and a few cryptic coordinates. Then they drop you in the woods. No GPS, no phone, no radio. Just you, your mind, and the low, constant hum of insects in a pine forest that seems to stretch into eternity. Your task: plot your points. Move quietly. Record what you find. Avoid the cadre patrolling the course, waiting to ambush those who get lazy. It's called the Night Compass Course, and it's not just about orienteering. It's about learning how to stay calm when your world has gone dark and silent. You spend hours navigating through wet underbrush and ankle-deep creek beds. Trees creak. Your breath fogs. You fall twice, scratch your knees, and rip your map on a thorny branch. But you keep going. You think about soldiers in real combat zones, doing this for real. Some without maps, some without food, some being hunted. Eventually, you find your final marker, a red glow stick tied to a metal stake. You punch your scorecard. Your hands are shaking from cold and adrenaline. You feel like a ghost and a warrior. The next day, your body groans with exhaustion, but the show never stops. You're thrown into urban operations drills, where entire mock villages have been constructed from plywood and shipping containers. There are door-breaching exercises, stairwell clears, room-to-room assaults. You're handed a rubber M4 with a cracked barrel and told to imagine every corner holds an enemy. Your squad moves like a machine. Low voices, hand signals, synchronized sweeps. Your squad leader yells, "Hostile! Second floor!" You rush. You aim. You clear. You scream, "Clear!" with every muscle in your neck. By now, you know the routine. If you hesitate, you die. If you rush without thinking, you die. If your team doesn't trust you, everyone dies. Later that week, during a rare Sunday chapel hour, the chaplain gives a speech. No hellfire, no politics, just reflection. He says, when you lead soldiers into harm's way, your first duty is not to be perfect, it's to be trustworthy. People will follow you if they believe you care about them. Remember that. You scribble that in the margins of your field notebook. Later, you catch yourself doing something strange, squaring your corners in civilian buildings. You check door angles automatically. You track escape paths in restaurants. You sit where you can see the whole room. You're starting to become different. Your family notices it too. On phone call day, your mom cries. You don't. You just tell her you're doing fine. Even though your knees are bruised, your shoulders ache, and you haven't tasted silence in weeks. You call that strength. But the truth is, you've learned to compartmentalize. Here's a detail nobody tells you about officer training. It's not designed to create warriors. It's designed to forge leaders who can endure chaos without becoming cruel, who can suffer in silence without losing compassion. The Army doesn't want monsters. It wants men and women who understand that commanding lives means carrying weight. So they give you the weight early, before the rank ever appears on your collar. And maybe that's the hardest part. Here's a bit of U.S. military trivia. The word cadet comes from the French word cadet, meaning younger son. Historically, it referred to nobles who wouldn't inherit land, so they were trained for war instead. Even in the 1600s, the second-borns were being shaped into steel. And your strange tidbit for the day: in 1968, an Air Force Academy cadet built a working jet-powered go-kart as part of an engineering prank. It hit 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds, until it crashed into a golf cart full of brass. The cadet spent the rest of his semester writing an essay titled, "Why We Use Wind Tunnels." That night, you smile thinking about that poor kid. You polish your boots, you check your rifle, and you say goodnight to the bunkmate snoring softly across from you. Because even warriors deserve sleep. And tomorrow they're taking you to the firing range. You haven't tasted fear until you're standing in a long, narrow hallway at West Point, dripping sweat, with nothing between you and a group of upperclassmen but a few paces of polished floor and the sheer force of institutional tradition. It's day 9, and today you'll face what every cadet has come to dread and, oddly enough, revere: your first true inspection gauntlet. Not the baby one they threw at you last week. No, this is the full-contact, psychological obstacle course of standing at attention while being grilled, poked, and mentally deconstructed by cadets who've been in your shoes and now wear the boots of power. But before that delightful crucible, your morning starts, predictably, with the scream of reveille. You're developing a Pavlovian response to it. Wide-eyed panic followed by a deep sigh and a flurry of flailing as you get your boots on before your roommate does. This morning, however, your squad leader lets something slip at formation that sends a chill down everyone's spine. Hope you've been folding those underwear seams right, 'cause you'll be showing them off today. Cue the ripple of anxiety down the line. Breakfast is a blur, not because it's delicious, but because your brain is already going through a checklist of every square inch of your room. Did you dust the top of the wall locker? Did you crease your white tee at exactly the right angle inside your drawer? And did you really remove every single hair from the sink? Spoiler, probably not. And you'll pay for that. Back at the barracks, you and your roommate launch into a last-ditch cleaning frenzy. Everything must be perfect. Shoes lined up toe to wall, laundry folded to razor-sharp angles, bed so taut a quarter could bounce off it. And sometimes does, thanks to your sadistic cadre. The whole process is somewhere between obsessive-compulsive and religious devotion. You even find yourself praying to the deity of lint rollers. And then they come. 3 upper-class cadets, 2 clipboard-toting, and 1 with a sneer so sharp it could cut your Class A tie in half. They enter your room like sharks, circling, sniffing, dissecting. One heads straight for your closet. Another crouches beside your trash bin. The third just stares at you. Stares for a very long time. Cadet, are you breathing out of regulation? It's not a real question. It's a trap. You freeze, unsure if saying yes implies you have no control, and saying no implies you're lying. You go with, "Sir, this cadet does not know." Bad move. Then how are you still alive, cadet? Welcome to Inspection Theater, where logic dies and sarcasm lives forever. The inspection is designed to rattle you, and it does. One cadet knocks your shoe slightly out of place and watches how fast you correct it. Another comments on the smudge on your mirror. You didn't see it. How dare you? Your roommate gets called out for a towel being a shade too damp. Together, you sweat bullets, mentally writing a list of things to improve should you survive. Here's where history sneaks in. These inspections are rooted in traditions going back to the 1800s, when uniformity and discipline were the hallmarks of military culture. Even George Washington, though never a West Pointer himself, was a fan of precision. In fact, one of the earliest disciplinary manuals in American military history, the 1779 Blue Book by Baron von Steuben, insisted on room inspections, uniform presentation, and even correct posture, principles that continue to echo through these whitewashed halls. And here's your weird tidbit of the day. West Point once experimented with scent detection inspections in the 1950s. A bizarre short-lived effort involved a clean scent test where cadets' bunks had to smell like fresh linen. Rumor has it this backfired when one cadet tried a mass body odor with floor polish and passed with flying colors. That might be a myth or a genius workaround. Historians still argue whether such olfactory absurdities ever made it into the official regulations. By the time the inspection ends, you're lightheaded, not from fear, but from how long you've held your breath. The upper-class cadets disappear without a word, leaving the room in perfect silence. You and your roommate exchange a look that says, "We live another day." But don't relax yet. The debrief is next. In the company common room, a senior cadet goes through inspection outcomes like a priest reading confessions. Room 213, towel fold, abysmal. Shoe polish, commendable. Mirror, unforgivable. Each comment is received with a mix of relief and dread. You're not the worst, but you're not winning cadet of the month either. Later that afternoon, you're marched out for field exercises. It's the academy's way of recentering your brain after the emotional whiplash of the morning. You spend the hours crawling, sprinting, and mock engaging in tactical drills under the watchful eyes of instructors who believe sweat cleanses more than soap. And it kind of does. As dusk falls, your body is a lattice of bruises, your brain is foggy, and your uniform smells like adrenaline and damp earth. But there's pride too, a strange, stubborn pride that you're still standing. You didn't break under inspection. You held the line, even if your drawer didn't. Back in your room, after showering and finally relaxing for a second, you sit at your desk and start a journal. It's a new habit, one they encourage to track your growth. You write one sentence. Today, I was not perfect, but I was not broken. And that's enough. You're barely halfway through your first official day, and already your spine is questioning your life decisions. But there's no time to listen to it because now it's time for the gauntlet, better known as the Cadet Barracks Hallway Gauntlet, where you'll try to walk 100 feet without incurring the wrath of an upperclassman. You've seen documentaries about boot camp. You've even practiced your "yes, sir" in the mirror. But nothing prepared you for this hallway. First, you square off the corners of your turn, exactly as taught. No cutting corners here, literally. You pivot with robotic precision, eyes locked ahead. But lurking around the bend is your first obstacle. Cadet Sergeant Ramirez, standing like a sentinel. His jaw could slice steak. His arms are folded with the force of judgment. "Hey, new cadet," he booms. "Why does your shirt look like it got steamrolled by a blind rhino?" You freeze. A trick question? Or just classic humiliation theater? "No excuse, Cadet Sergeant." You bark. He nods. Approval? Disgust? Who knows? You proceed. Further down, Cadet Corporal Singh holds court over a squad of trembling rookies. She gestures for you. Her tone is sugar-laced poison. You've memorized the alma mater, haven't you? You nod. Mistake. Recite it. Now, in full view of your peers, you try to belt out the lyrics to the core. Problem is, your mouth is suddenly dry, and your brains run off to Canada. You get halfway through the second line when Singh interrupts. Wrong cadence. Again. This continues for a painful 30 seconds before she dismisses you like an underperforming contestant on a talent show. The hallway ends with a dreaded checkpoint. The mirror. It's not for vanity. It's for micro-inspection. A hidden cadre member pops out, inspecting your brass, your name tag alignment, even your shoelaces. You planning to trip during formation, cadet? He grunts. You haven't even thought about your feet since 0500. He commands you to do a quick facing movement. Right face, left face, about face. You stumble slightly on the about face. Sloppy, he mutters, waving you off like a fly. You make it out the other side with your dignity clinging to your shoulder like a wet sock. Congratulations. You just ran the cadet gauntlet. And while you might feel humiliated, the secret is, every upperclassman was once you. Historians still argue whether this form of training builds resilience or just reinforces groupthink. But there's no denying it's a ritual that bonds generations of cadets like secret handshakes in a Spartan brotherhood. Before you can exhale, it's time for drill and ceremony. Now, marching might sound easy. After all, you've walked before. You've probably even strutted. But coordinated group movement, synchronized heel strikes, and snappy commands? That's a new beast. You line up in a perfectly spaced formation. Cadet captainly takes the lead, his voice slicing through the air like a saber. Right face. A dozen bodies pivot like synchronized swimmers auditioning for a gritty military ballet. You hesitate for half a beat. That's all it takes. Lee spins toward you. Did I say think about it first, new cadet? No, sir. Then why are you still processing? Move like you've been doing this since you were born. Eventually, you start to find a rhythm. Your body obeys without hesitation. The gravel crunches beneath your boots in perfect unison with your fellow cadets. There's something oddly satisfying about it, like you've tapped into a primal collective consciousness, one that walks, turns, and halts with a singular purpose. And it's not just pomp and pageantry. The historical roots of drill and ceremony go back to ancient Rome, where precision movement wasn't just aesthetic, it was survival. Modern armies adopted it as a means to instill order, coordination, and discipline in units often composed of wildly different individuals. That same principle still drives it today. At some point, the cadre even let you carry a mock M4 rifle. Plastic, hollow, but still, your fingers curl around it with a strange mixture of fear and pride. You're instructed in basic rifle movements, shoulder arms, order arms, present arms. Your body wants to fumble. Your cadre wants you to flourish. Most of the cadets just want lunch. It's around this moment that you start to sense the shift. Earlier, you were just surviving. Now, you're adapting. Every shouted order that once made you flinch now feels like background noise. You anticipate before they command. You start to feel capable. And that's the first spark of confidence. Not arrogance, just the knowledge that you might not die out here after all. And just when you think things are evening out, someone missteps during a cadence march and throws the entire column into disarray. Guess who? Yeah, it's you. You stepped off with the wrong foot, and now Cadet Sergeant Ramirez is beside himself. You just broke time and space, Cadet, he shouts. You trying to get us all killed by ghosts of Grant and Lee. Which, by the way, fun fact, some West Point cadets do believe in ghosts. There are rumored hauntings across the campus, particularly in the old cadet library and a few isolated barracks. Even the superintendent's house has its own eerie tales. A fringe theory, yes, but one persistent enough that several cadets swear by their midnight encounters. Doesn't help that you're already sleep-deprived and susceptible to seeing shadows everywhere. Still, despite the mental slip-ups, there's a collective improvement. The squad that was just a pack of mismatched strangers this morning now moves with something close to unity. Not grace yet, more like clunky harmony, but it's something. Like an awkward first band rehearsal where, by the end, no one's off-key. Eventually, Cadet Captainly calls it. Fall out. You're dismissed with sweat streaking your temples, legs numb from a tension stance, and a chest strangely warm with pride. You survive drill and ceremony. Barely. And your punishment? Marching back to the barracks. Which, ironically, starts with more marching. You stare at the tray before you. It's your lunch break, officially known as midday chow, but it feels more like a timed endurance event than a meal. You've got approximately 10 minutes to ingest enough calories to survive the rest of the day. In front of you, a paper-thin slice of mystery meat, 3 scoops of starch, a piece of sad-looking fruit, and a biscuit that could serve as a doorstop in an emergency. Your table is silent. Everyone eats like it's a mission. Heads down, fork to mouth, chew, swallow, repeat. You've learned to sit shoulder to shoulder with your company, boots braced against the bench frame, back straight, even while eating. No phones, no talking unless spoken to, and, heaven help you, Don't let the cadre catch you looking around. Across the mess hall, an upperclassman screams at a fellow plebe for chewing too slowly. You chew faster. Outside the windows, the Hudson River glints beneath a thin film of clouds. But inside, the world is a blur of trays clattering, boots thudding, and institutional overhead lighting. Dining in silence isn't enforced by rules. It's enforced by exhaustion. You speak when the table leader speaks, and not before. Today's historical fact: this exact mess hall, the Washington Hall, has been feeding cadets since 1934. Its high ceilings and stained glass windows were designed to intimidate just as much as they were meant to inspire. Generals, astronauts, and presidents once gnawed dry turkey legs in these same chairs. But don't expect gold-plated forks. Even Dwight Eisenhower had to slurp split-pea soup out of a battered steel bowl once. You jab at the chicken. Or is it pork? Historians still argue whether cadets during World War II got better food than today's menu. One 1942 diary simply reads, "Beans." Again, as you scarf down each bite, your mind drifts to your first Sunday off, when they'll let you wear civilian clothes, eat a real sandwich, maybe even go to the PX and buy candy. But that's a lifetime away. Lunch ends before you're full. Someone yells, "Clear the table," and 20 trays vanish in unison. A garbage can is flanked by 2 cadets tasked with scraping, stacking, and speed washing trays like pit crew mechanics. You stack your own with the synchronized grace of someone who's done this 50 times in 2 weeks. Now back outside, back to the quad, back to movement. You're not done eating. You're just done now. Digestion is optional. Next stop, the armory. You've been issued a practice rifle, the M4 clone. You don't get to keep it, and it isn't loaded. You're not trusted with real bullets yet, but it's yours for this drill session. A bit of black polymer and nostalgia. It's lighter than the real thing, but still deadly to your shins if you carry it wrong. You march in formation to the practice field. Rows of cadets line up to simulate clearing rooms, stacking up at imaginary doorways, calling out targets that don't exist. The training officer barks, and you respond in unison, your voices growing louder with each repetition. Breacher ready. Stack set. Clear left. Underneath the commands, your ears catch snippets of music from a nearby civilian car. It's some pop song you half remember from before cadet basic training, or Beast as they call it. The real world is out there, just beyond the fence, but it may as well be another country. As you kneel and aim at a plywood target shaped like a generic threat actor, your thighs scream. The M4 clone digs into your shoulder. You focus on breathing, on not messing up, on keeping your trigger discipline flawless, finger alongside, not on the trigger. The cadre wanders past, eyes sharp, waiting to pounce on the slightest error. You're slicing the pie like you're spreading jam, cadet. He growls at someone 2 stacks over. You suppress a laugh. Barely. Somewhere between the shouting and the simulated danger, your body shifts into something weirdly resembling flow. Your mind isn't quite at peace, but it's engaged. Awake. Alert. You're playing soldier in a very real institution, and the game is shaping you whether you like it or not. By the time drills wrap up, your neck aches from keeping your head on a swivel. You line up your dummy rifles, return them to the armory, and do the mental math. How many hours until lights out? You've got classes in the afternoon. Real academic courses, calculus, military history, intro to military ethics. You shuffle into your next classroom in a squarish brick building, where the whiteboard still bears equations from an earlier section. The instructor walks in, a civilian this time. He wears khakis and a red pen clipped to his shirt. He could be your high school teacher, except you now call him sir, and sit with your hands folded when not taking notes. The material is tough. You're sleep deprived. You scribble formulas, nod at terms like vector calculus, and try to focus despite the drone in your head. Your stomach is still half empty from lunch. Here's a fringe tidbit. There's a running theory among cadets that the food is deliberately bland to keep your heart rate low and your libido lower. No one knows if it's true, but when your lunch options are between beige pasta and slightly darker beige pasta, it's easy to believe. You make it through class. Barely. Your notes are a mess of arrows, half-solved problems, and a doodle of a tiny figure in full cadet uniform shouting, "I miss sleep." When the final bell rings, you haul your bag over one shoulder and march toward the mailroom. Mail is your lifeline. You haven't received anything today, but that doesn't stop you from hoping. A package slip? A letter? Something handwritten? Today, nothing. Maybe tomorrow. Back at the barracks, it's cleanup time. You help a roommate fold his uniform correctly. The creases must be perfect, diagonal lines like origami meets warfare. You polish your boots again, even though you did it this morning. They say a cadet's character can be judged by the shine on his toes. Or maybe that's just a lie upperclassmen tell to see how gullible you are. By the time dinner rolls around, you're exhausted. It's only been a few hours since lunch, but it feels like a different lifetime. Dinner is a blur, less intense than lunch, but still no dawdling. You eat like you live, with focus, intention, and a minor sense of doom. The sun is setting over Trophy Point now, casting the Hudson in burnished gold. You catch a glimpse through a narrow hallway window. For a moment, you're not a cadet. You're just a person, watching the world soften. But the moment doesn't last. It's nearly time for evening formation. There's no such thing as a short run at West Point. Your quads are already barking at you before sunrise. But apparently that means it's the perfect time to strap on a rucksack, lace up your boots, and head out for a field training exercise that the instructors cryptically refer to as land nav. The full name is land navigation, but you'll quickly learn it's more psychological than directional. No GPS, no phone, no squad leader to follow. Just you, a paper map, a magnetic compass, a timing card, and a landscape that seems to laugh at your panic. You start before dawn. The trees are still cloaked in fog, and the rising sun struggles to poke through the dense canopy. Your job: find a series of hidden metal poles scattered across miles of wilderness. Each has a unique code to punch into your card. You need to find them all, and fast. You're racing the clock, and failure has consequences. Usually muddy, exhausting, or humiliating ones. From the moment you step off the gravel trail and into the thicket, everything turns surreal. Twigs snap, leaves crunch under your boots. You check your azimuth like your life depends on it, because in this moment, it kind of does. Land NAV isn't just about finding your way. It's a test of your focus, your endurance, and your stubborn refusal to give up when your compass needle seems to be lying. Historians still argue whether the Army's insistence on manual navigation is outdated or timeless. After all, satellite systems can be jammed, but a compass won't fail you unless you forget which end point's north. And yes, someone in your squad absolutely will do that today. Somewhere around checkpoint 4, you start talking to yourself. Not out loud, yet, but just loud enough in your head to sound a little deranged. That tree looks familiar. Is that hill getting steeper? Did that squirrel just mock me? No one warns you that the woods have a strange effect on cadets, especially the ones who skip breakfast. Along the way, you spot signs of others: boot prints, crushed grass, faint trails, but you never see them. Everyone's spread out, wandering like cursed adventurers in a fantasy novel. Except instead of magic swords, you've got soggy socks and a laminated grid. Just as your stomach growls loud enough to scare off a bird, you stumble upon the final marker. The punch clicks satisfyingly, a tiny victory in a morning full of self-doubt. You sit down for a second on a damp log. Mist clings to your uniform, sweat drips from your temples, and your heart still hasn't fully caught up from the panic of checkpoint 3. But you did it. Now comes the march back. You trudge toward the extraction point, which is just a fancy way of saying the road where a truck will maybe pick you up if you're lucky. Your thighs feel like rusted hinges. Somewhere nearby, Another cadet is yelling into the trees, probably trying to get his compass to behave. A hawk circles above. You think about asking it for directions. By the time you're back on paved ground, your boots are soaked, your map is torn, and your face is painted with streaks of mud you didn't notice collecting. You pass the instructors, who offer no smile, no well done, just a clipboard check and a terse nod. And weirdly, that nod feels like a medal. The quirky part? There's a legend passed around that somewhere in these hills is an old, sun-bleached checkpoint that hasn't been moved since 1986. No one's found it in decades, but it shows up on the map every year. Some say it's haunted. Others think it's a joke. You make a mental note to come back one day and find it, if your legs ever forgive you. Back at the barracks, you collapse onto your bunk like it owes you money. But no rest yet, because today's land in AV was only the morning activity. The rest of the day, tactical drills, mission briefings, and an equipment inspection that could very well make you cry. But for just a moment, lying there, the scratches on your arms feel like badges, and the mud in your boots feels like proof you didn't get lost today. You found your way through the trees, through the fog, and through another test that wasn't about maps at all. The barracks never smell clean, not really. They smell scrubbed, like sweat that's been politely mopped into the corners and detergent that's trying a little too hard. The air inside feels dense, not with heat, but with expectation. Because every room, every hallway, every tile on the floor carries a memory of someone getting smoked, someone breaking, or someone becoming something harder than before. And right now, you're about to be part of that memory. Because it's inspection time. Not the kind where someone pokes their head in and says, "Looks good." No, this is a full-scale gear layout. A platoon sergeant with a clipboard and a death stare is about to walk the aisle like a god among mortals. And you're just praying your socks are folded right. You stand at the foot of your bed, arms locked to your sides. Boots shine to a sad, dusty gleam, heart hammering in time with every heavy step echoing down the hallway. Everyone is silent, except for the faint, synchronized clink of belt buckles adjusting and one guy near the back whispering a prayer that ends in a curse. On your bunk, a museum exhibit of Army-issued precision. Poncho folded to regulation dimensions. Canteen perfectly aligned at 90 degrees. T-shirt rolled tight enough to bounce a coin. A single piece of lint could be a death sentence. And of course, your rifle, disassembled and cleaned to within an inch of its metallic life, laid out like a sacrament. Then, the silence breaks. Cadet Third Class Mendez. The sergeant booms, standing at the first bed, voice sharp enough to slice drywall. Explain this disaster. The rest of you brace for impact. Mendez starts to speak, something about shaving cream leaking, but it's too late. The sergeant is already moving on, footsteps ringing like war drums, clipboard flipping, eyes scanning for weakness. You don't look at him directly. You stare straight ahead, neck stiff, eyes unfocused, the way you were taught. You become a statue of obedience, a monument to fear and linen corners. He's getting closer. One cadet flinches. Another holds their breath. Somewhere in the background, a fly buzzes past a folded towel and seals its fate. Then he's in front of you. He doesn't speak at first, just stares. You hear your own pulse. You feel the weight of your dog tags. You smell the faint rust of rifle oil and the citrus tang of floor cleaner. A drop of sweat slithers down your spine, tickling like mockery. "Cadet," he says finally, "is this supposed to be a hospital corner?" "Yes, Sergeant." You bark, voice firm. "Then why does it look like a goat tried origami?" You have no answer. There is no right answer. Just the quiet acceptance of your coming punishment. He scribbles something, then moves on. You survive. Barely. Behind you, someone's toothbrush is judged disgusting enough to qualify as biological warfare. Another cadet is told his footlocker arrangement offends the gods of geometry. Someone else is simply pointed at and told to start doing push-ups until they learn the alphabet backwards. The entire inspection takes less than 20 minutes, but it feels like a tribunal, a reckoning, an exorcism of anything less than perfect. And when it's over, and the sergeant finally departs with a dismissive "fix it," no one moves for 5 seconds. Not because they're frozen, but because they know this is what West Point feels like. Like walking a tightrope while juggling grenades and being told to smile for the yearbook. You sit down on your bunk, letting your muscles loosen just a fraction. Around you, cadets begin whispering, sharing trauma, trading stories like survivors of a tiny domestic war. One guy got lucky. His gear layout was perfect. Another confesses he forgot to wash his laundry bag and now fears he'll never know peace again. But even in the tension, something odd happens. You feel proud, not because you passed, not even because you survived, but because, in this strange crucible of schedules, screaming, sweat, and starch, you belong. You've tasted the ridiculous. You've stood at attention while someone verbally dissected your towel fold. You've watched a grown adult scream about Lent. And still, you're here. Welcome to the next level. Tomorrow is Ruck March Day. They told you the Ruck March would be tough, but they didn't tell you that it would feel like dragging a small, angry planet on your back while your knees whisper threats and your shoulders scream for mercy. Dark, not night, not morning, just that gray no man's land where time feels fake and decisions like joining the academy begin to ache. Outside the barracks, you form up in rows, a field of green-brown shadows barely visible in the moonlight. Your rucksack is packed, 35 pounds minimum. Give or take a water bladder and the ghost of every bad life choice. The straps cut into your shoulders before the first step. You try not to shift under the weight, but it already feels like gravity's playing favorites. 10 miles. The cadre announces like he's describing a nature walk. Over the hills, through the woods, uphill both ways. You know the deal. There's a half-hearted chuckle, just enough to prove you're still human. Then the order comes. Move out, and the silence breaks with boots. Dozens of them, pounding in rhythm, like a slow-motion drumline for pain. You march. At first, it's just about finding pace. You focus on your breath. Left, right, inhale, step. The cold air hits your lungs like glass. The early morning fog wraps around your legs like sea foam, and the first incline welcomes you with open arms and an evil grin. 1 mile in, the jokes start. Someone behind you compares the march to dating their ex. Slow, painful, and full of regret. Another guy starts humming the Rocky theme until the platoon sergeant shuts it down with a glare that could kill mosquitoes mid-flight. 2 miles in, the world narrows. You stop thinking in paragraphs. Just single thoughts. Left, right, breathe, water, shift strap, don't stop, don't stop, don't. 3 miles. 4. Cadet Jones slips on loose gravel and catches himself with a noof. That sounds like someone took his soul. He laughs it off. A minute later, he pukes into the bushes and keeps moving. By mile 5, the mental games begin. Your legs feel fine, but not really. Your brain starts whispering. What if you faked a knee thing? What if you fell? Maybe you can just disappear into the woods, become a raccoon, live free, but you don't. You adjust your grip, shift the weight, take a sip of warm water, keep walking. At mile 6, someone's boot splits. Duct tape. March on. Another cadet starts limping. No one says anything, just closes ranks, slows pace. Quiet solidarity, born of shared misery. Mile 7 is uphill, straight up. The kind of hill that feels like a stairway to Hades. The person next to you mutters, "This is how I die." You nod, mostly in agreement. And then comes the hill. You've heard about it. Every class does. It doesn't have an official name. Just the hill. It's steep, stupid, and unnecessary. But it's tradition. As you climb, the world becomes just the ground in front of you. Gravel. Boot. Gravel. Boot. Don't fall. Don't break. Don't cry. Some cadets grunt. Others chant low, mantra-like phrases. A few sing under their breath, not for motivation, just to remember they're alive. At the top, no cheering, no applause, just a view. Mist crawling across pine trees, sunrise beginning to pull gold across the horizon. It's beautiful. It's cruel. Mile 9. Downhill hurts worse, because now your knees hate you. Your feet are blistered. Somewhere. You stopped feeling toes a while ago, and your lower back has filed a formal complaint with your spine. And then, finally, you hear it. Half mile to go. The cadre yells, like he's Santa Claus announcing presents. You push, not because you feel good, not because you have energy left, but because quitting now, with the finish in sight, would mean the pain wasn't worth anything. The gate appears like a mirage, a concrete arch, a truck, cadre waiting, stopwatch ticking. You cross the line, and the silence after, that's what victory sounds like. A few cadets slump to the grass. Others lean on each other. Some drop their rucks like they're exorcising demons. You just breathe. Someone offers you water. Someone else mutters, "I think I ascended spiritually." A third cadet has grass in their mouth and doesn't know why. But no one complains, because everyone made it. You look around, faces caked in sweat, shirts dark with effort, boots dusty and ruined, and you realize this wasn't just a test of muscle. It was a ceremony, and you passed. And tomorrow's grenade training. Grenade Day. Not the Hollywood kind with dramatic slow-mo throws and triumphant fireballs. This is the real kind. The controlled chaos wrapped in sandbags and reinforced concrete, where your own heartbeat might be louder than the blast. You start the morning at the training pit, a sunken area ringed by barriers and lined with instructors who look like they've seen too many rookies almost fumble the world's worst game of hot potato. There's a lecture first, not the boring kind, the life or death kind. The instructor, a retired master sergeant with a jaw like concrete and eyes like spent brass, walks out holding the grenade like it's a sacred relic. This, he says, holding it up, is the M67 fragmentation grenade, about the size of a peach, weighs 14 ounces. Inside, 6.5 ounces of composition be explosive. That's enough to kill anyone within 5 meters and mess up everyone within 15. He pauses. So if you drop it, you will die scared. Nobody laughs. He walks you through the anatomy, pin, spoon, fuse time, delay. Demonstrates the throwing grip like it's a martial arts form. It's all muscle memory, he says. Your fingers must know what your brain might forget under stress. Then, you head to the practice lanes, pits with rubber dummies, fake grenades, and instructors shadowing you like hawks. You practice over and over. Pull pin, throw duck. Reset. Again. Reset. Again. You're not throwing a baseball. You're throwing death. Don't lob it. Snap it. It's not a bouquet. Stop chicken winging your arm like you're dancing bachata. Some cadets keep flinching at the clang of practice grenades hitting the dummy barriers. One nearly drops his on the wind-up. The cadre grabs his wrist mid-motion. Save a life without saying a word. Then the time comes. Live grenades. You're issued 2. They rest in your hand heavier than you imagined. The paint is scratched. The pin looks fragile. It hums with consequence. You're led, one by one, into the live bay. A reinforced concrete cube with a slit window, a throwing pit, and one instructor behind you with a firm grip on your shoulder. You step into the throwing box. It's silent, except for birdsong and your heart pounding like someone slamming doors inside your chest. Ready? The instructor asks. You nod, too scared to speak. Pull the pin. Thumb the spoon. You do. The metal ring slides out easier than you expected. But now the spoon's under your thumb, and the moment is alive. Throw. You hurl it. Quick. Snapping motion. Clean arc. It disappears into the range. Down. You slam to the ground behind the concrete wall. The silence lasts forever. Then, boom. It's not like the movies. It doesn't echo with glamour. It punches the air, like a fist made of sound and pressure. Dirt jumps. Shrapnel rings against the range walls. The instructor slaps your helmet. Good throw. You live. You don't realize you were holding your breath until you gasp. Then he hands you the second one. Again. This time, you feel it. The terror's still there, but your body knows. Grip, pin, throw, duck. Boom. You crawl out of the pit, shaking, wide-eyed, alive. Behind you, another cadet enters. Someone vomits behind the bleachers. Another stares at his hands like they just told him a secret. But you walk tall, because you threw death and didn't flinch. Later, back at the barracks, you sit on your bunk, silent, thinking, not of the blast, but of how close you were to holding something that didn't care about you at all. Grenade Day doesn't make you feel strong. It makes you aware of the stakes, the fragility, the real weight of combat, and of the fact that tomorrow's schedule, land navigation, with a broken compass, land nav hell. There's a myth in every RDC program. It's just walking with a map. That myth dies the minute you're chest deep in thorns, bleeding from 3 different scratches, wondering if that moss-covered stump is your last known landmark, or just your imagination messing with you. Welcome to day 1 of land navigation, the most polite way the military tests whether you're smart enough to survive and dumb enough to keep going when nothing makes sense. You report at 0400. It's pitch black. The kind of darkness that swallows flashlights and makes grown cadets whisper prayers to GPS satellites they can't use. Map, compass, protractor. You got 6 points. For hours. Fail to find 3. You fail the whole evolution, says the instructor, handing out waterproof map packets like curses. No phones. No GPS. No buddy teams. No crying. He's not joking. They march you to the woods. An endless tangle of pines, brambles, and deceptive hills that look the same in every direction. The air smells like mud, diesel, and bad decisions. Your first checkpoint is 420 meters southeast. Sounds simple, until you realize every tree looks like every other tree. The map scale mocks you. Your compass needle shivers like it's seen some things. You've already stepped into a swamp. You plot your azimuth. Pace count is 65 for 100 meters. Soak 273 paces. Except your legs are now half submerged in bog water, and you lose track at 130. You trudge on, second-guessing everything. You find your first marker 30 minutes later, an orange ammo can with a code inside. You write it down. Your hands are shaking from cold and relief. 1 down, 5 to go. The second takes longer. You overshoot, double back, trip on a root, realize you've looped in a circle. You sit on a rock and scream silently. Then you remember the instructor's words. Your weapon's not your rifle. It's your brain. Use it. You stop, breathe, rethink, replot. Eventually, you find a second point tucked beneath a fallen log. Code inside, dagger 11. You whisper it like a mantra. The third and fourth come faster. You're getting in rhythm now, counting paces by humming cadences in your head. Eyes scanning for anything unnatural. Straight lines, camo boxes, broken twigs that scream human presence. But the fifth is evil. You follow your bearing, but the terrain fights back. Hills rise out of nowhere. Brambles catch your sleeves. A hornet nest forces a detour. You sweat through your uniform, soaked in frustration. At 3 hours 40 minutes, you're nowhere near it. You're staring at a rock shaped vaguely like a turtle, wondering if the gods are mocking you. Then, you remember the contour lines. The slight rise you ignored earlier. You double back, this time trusting the map, not your panic. And there it is, sitting between 2 trees like a forgotten offering to some merciless woodland deity. The 5th marker. You yell, loud, feral. A squirrel runs for its life. Now you sprint, yes, sprint, toward the final point. Clock's ticking. You leap over a fallen branch, slam your shin on a stone, taste blood in your mouth from dry breathing. With 6 minutes to spare, you find the last one. You stumble into the rally point like a soldier returning from war. Mud on your boots, burrs in your socks, confidence hanging on by a thread. The cadre doesn't clap, doesn't smile, just checks your codes. Good. You live another day. Some cadets didn't make it. They're silent, eyes hollow. One of them walks off into the woods by accident before the instructor redirects him. That night, back at the barracks, your bunk feels like a king's throne. You lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling fan, whispering things only land in AV survivors understand. Red on the shed. Keep the needle steady. Don't trust the pine tree. Always trust the contour. And then you sleep, like a warrior who conquered the forest, with a map, a compass, and pure spite. Ranger Buddy Blues. By week 3, you've stopped trying to survive this alone. Everyone learns fast. You don't beat ROTC Advanced Camp without your Ranger Buddy. Your Ranger Buddy becomes your shadow, your echo, your emotional support animal who also yells at you when you screw up a radio call. You move together, eat together, suffer together. If you're lucky, you get someone calm, reliable, and with strong shoulders for when the rucksacks get heavy. If you're not lucky, you learn patience. The cadre says it clearly during the first squad briefing. You rise and fall as a team. One fails, you both fail. One forgets their canteen, you both drink sweat. So you buddy up. In your case, you get Morales. Short, wiry, born in Puerto Rico, with a face like someone carved it from tension and caffeine. Speaks fluent sarcasm, curses like a drill sergeant, and somehow knows exactly what tree root you're about to trip over. You hate him for the first 48 hours. By day 5, you trust him to carry your dead body through enemy fire. Because Ranger Buddy bonds aren't built on affection. They're forged in shared misery. Like that time in Nightland Nav, when you got lost on point 3 and wanted to sit down and cry. But Morales yanked you to your feet and said, "You can cry when we pass. Now walk, you compass blind bastard." Or during the SDX lanes, squad tactical exercises, when he covered your sector while you fumbled to set up a claymore and whispered, "I swear to God, if you put the front toward enemy side backwards, I'm disowning you." You grinned. You didn't mess up. It's the little things. Swapping MRE crackers for peanut butter. Reminding each other to hydrate. Pulling ticks out of weird places without making eye contact. You and Morales move like one machine now. Hand signals. Head nods. Gut instinct. During the react to ambush drill, your squad leader gets hit in the simulation. Chaos erupts. Paintball fire. Cadre yelling. Half the squad frozen. But you and Morales flank left. Fire maneuver. Bound in cover. Without speaking. Just move. Cover. Move. Cover like your lives depend on it. You hear one of the evaluators mutter. Those two trained together. You didn't. You just suffered together. The thing is, no one tells you how intimate war games get. Not romantically, but spiritually. You see each other at your lowest, shivering from sleep deprivation, crying over lost points, hallucinating from lack of calories. You hear each other's family stories during night watches. You see the bruises, the breakdowns, the shaky hands gripping a rifle before a lane eval. And when it's all said and done, when you finish 12 miles of forced ruck march at 3 a.m., side by side, bleeding at the heels and muttering curses into the wind, you don't fist bump, you just nod, because no one else will understand what you went through but the person who stood beside you the entire time. Ranger buddies aren't assigned, they're earned. And when Morales gets reassigned to Fort Benning while you ship to Fort Sill, you don't cry. You just say, "See you downrange," and hope like hell that if the real war ever comes, you're in the same foxhole. Land navigation, where confidence goes to die. Land nav sounds easy on paper. You get a map, a compass, and a set of grid coordinates. Find 5 points in the woods within 4 hours. No GPS, no phones, no teammates. Just you, the bugs, and you're increasingly frayed sanity. What they don't tell you is, this isn't orienteering. It's psychological warfare. The first time you step into those Kentucky woods during day land nav, you're optimistic. Your protractor is out. Your compass needle dances confidently. You shoot your azimuth, pace out your distance, and boom. First point found in 22 minutes. You think I got this. But then point 2 never shows up. You check your bearing again. Maybe you veered slightly. You backtrack 400 meters, but now the terrain looks alien. Was that down tree here before? Did you pass that creek already? Is the map lying, or are you just that bad? Then comes the self-doubt spiral. You recheck the declination. Maybe you subtracted instead of added. Now you're second-guessing everything. Your steps, your direction, your entire existence. And then you see them, the wanderers, other cadets, zigzagging through the trees like broken Roombas, eyes glassy, murmuring grid coordinates like prayers. One guy's sobbing. A girl is shouting at her compass like it betrayed her. Someone's crawling. A cadre member watches calmly from a distance, radio in hand, like a zookeeper observing primates who've lost their sense of direction. Remember your pace count, he calls dryly, as if that helps when the terrain has turned into an Escher painting. You finally find point 2 after an hour. You are so relieved, you hug the metal ammo can at stake to. By point 4, you stop thinking in words. Just steps, bearing, terrain feature, steps. It's primitive now. You're feral. But here's the real kicker. Nightland nav. It's the same mission, except the sun is gone, and your headlamp barely penetrates the black. Every tree looks like a monster. Every step is a gamble. The forest comes alive with sounds you can't explain, and you realize you've never been truly alone until you've been in pitch-black woods, navigating to an invisible point. Knowing your failure means retaking this entire thing. The fear is real, not getting hurt, but of getting lost, in the literal sense and the symbolic. Because land nav doesn't just test if you can follow a bearing. It tests whether, when you're truly alone, you trust yourself enough to keep walking. And when you finally stumble upon your last point, muddy, breathless, eyes wide in disbelief, it feels like a resurrection. You drag yourself back to the clearing, punch in your grid sheet, and collapse next to the fire barrels. Morales is already there, head in his hands, grinning like a madman. "Bro," he whispers, "I saw a tree that looked like my dad." You just nod, because same. Ranger games, when friendship turns violent. You might think Ranger School is a test of endurance, land navigation, or marksmanship. But those are just warm-ups. The real challenge, peer evaluations. They don't warn you. One day you're all buddies, joking in the ruck line, complaining about chow together. The next, it's Hunger Games with ACUs. See, after every phase, mountain, swamp, desert, you're handed a piece of paper and told to rate everyone in your squad. Rank them from most valuable to most useless. Names go on a list. That list determines who recycles. Or worse, who gets dropped. So you learn fast. Your buddy might carry your ruck one day and stab you on paper the next. Welcome to Ranger Games. Suddenly, everyone's on edge. That guy who forgot the challenge and password last night. Liability. That girl who can't climb the rope but makes great plans. Questionable. That dude who always volunteers to be point man, even when sleep-deprived and hallucinating. Probably gunning for top evals. You watch your squad start doing calculus in real time. Help carry the M240, plus 3 peer points. Volunteer for security on the freezing LPOP, plus 5, even if your soul dies. Sleep too long when others are prepping mission gear, minus 7, and maybe a quiet assassination later. Nobody says it aloud, but everyone knows. This is no longer about teamwork. It's about survival by perception. You see some try to manipulate it. Fake kindness, loud effort, performative humility. Others withdraw into quiet competence, hoping their work speaks for itself. Some break. One guy in Mountain Phase spent 45 minutes explaining to a tree why he was a great team player. But nothing prepares you for reading your own peer eval results. You're called into the tent. A cadre sergeant stares at you over a dim lantern. 15-man squad. You rank number 13. You feel like throwing up. You try to remember. What did you do wrong? Who did you piss off? Was it when you fell asleep on security? When you forgot to tighten straps on that ammo resupply? That one sarcastic joke about the squad leader's plan? Then you hear the next part. You're being dropped. Just like that. Not for failing tactics. Not for quitting. But because the people you were supposed to survive with decided you didn't make the cut. That's when it really hits. Ranger School isn't just a test of skills. It's a pressure cooker that reveals the raw truth of leadership under judgment. And the worst part, you don't hate them. Because deep down, you know you did the same thing. Somewhere in that swamp, when you were tired and hungry and praying for a helicopter evac, you ranked someone low too. You thought, he's slowing us down, or she's not carrying her weight. You wrote it, and now it's your turn. Some recycle and claw their way back. Others go home with an empty uniform sleeve. But everyone who's lived through peer eval day walks away changed. You learn that being good isn't enough. You have to look good, feel dependable, be seen, especially when everyone's exhausted and nobody is at their best. And when you finally graduate, when that black and gold tab is stitched above your shoulder, it doesn't just mean you're tough. It means, in the eyes of your peers, at your worst, in the mud, with no food, under fire, you were worthy. The tab is a scar. When you finally walk across the parade field at Victory Pond, you're not the same person who stood at the gates of Fort Benning months ago. The grass seems greener, the sky sharper, but that's just the hunger and sleep deprivation warping your senses. The tab they hand you, a small arc of black and gold that says Ranger, doesn't feel like an award. It feels like a scar. You touch it often, not out of pride, but to remind yourself that it's real. That everything you suffered, every tick bite, trench foot blister, night terror, peer eval, river crossing, failed patrol order, recycled phase, and death stare from an RI, wasn't imagined. You're not special because you survived Ranger School. You're different because of what it took from you. Some of the tolls are visible. You limp a little when the weather turns cold. You have a haunted look in your eyes when someone mentions MRE peanut butter. Your appetite never quite returns to normal. Eating fast, like someone might take your plate. But the real damage lives deeper. You wake up at 2 a.m. even in soft beds, instinctively reaching for a weapon that isn't there. You panic when you hear branches snap at night, or a flashlight beam cuts across your peripheral vision. You keep your rucksack in your closet for years. You learn to live with ghosts. Like the guy who failed patrols twice and was never seen again. Or the woman who recycled all 3 phases and still finished 6 months later, but stronger than anyone. Or the time your buddy fell into a ravine on a nighttime movement and you thought he was gone for good, only to find him laughing at the bottom, covered in leeches, yelling, "Still good to go." You laugh about it later, sure, but at the time, it wasn't funny. It was war. Not a real one. No bullets flew. No blood was spilled, usually. But in your mind, it was war. With yourself. With the clock. With the terrain. With every doubt that whispered, you can't. And when you finally win, when that tab is stitched above your heart, you carry it like a debt. A quiet obligation. Because now, when someone sees it on your shoulder, they expect something from you. Not perfection, but presence. They expect you to lead when it's hard, to speak when others fall silent, to step forward when the mission goes sideways, to stay awake longer, ruck farther, and carry more. Not because you want glory, but because you earned the right to suffer first. And if you forget that, Ranger School will come for you again. Not in person, but in dreams, in training, in every moment where someone says, "You went to Ranger School, right? What should we do?" That's the real test. Ranger School doesn't end at graduation. It begins when you're back in the world, expected to lead without orders, trusted because of a tab. You'll meet plenty of people who wear it like a trophy, but the ones who survive for real, they wear it like a wound that closed, but never truly healed. Because the tab isn't a badge, it's a promise, and that promise whispers to you every day. Don't let it be a lie. You will always be in the rain, no matter how sunny your life becomes after Ranger School, no matter how high-speed the unit, how good the assignment, how warm the bed. You will always, deep down, be in the rain. That's where you were reborn, standing in the middle of the woods, shivering, soaked through, every muscle cramping, your weapon slung improperly because your brain forgot the order of things, and your ranger instructor staring at you with a look that said, "You better figure it out." It wasn't just rain. It was a baptism. Some men get baptized in churches, some in blood. You were baptized in Georgia clay, Florida swamps, and the freezing black mountains of Dahlonega. You knelt before misery, before sleep deprivation and failure, and you came out the other side with no fanfare, no applause, just a soggy, laminated grade card with the word "go" scribbled on it, and a tab that burns hotter than fire whenever it touches your shoulder. But the truth is, Ranger School never really lets you go. Even when you leave Fort Benning, even when you change units, even when your life moves on and you start forgetting the names of your squad mates, forgetting the call signs, forgetting what day you were last in Florida phase, one thing never fades. The rain. It follows you. Not literally, but metaphorically. It becomes a posture, a presence, a memory that creeps into how you carry yourself under pressure. When life gets hard, when your family is falling apart, or a mission fails, or your kid looks at you like you're a stranger, you stand in the rain again. You remember, I've been worse off than this. Because in Ranger School, the rain wasn't just water. It was a weight. It made every failure colder, every movement harder, every word from your RI sharper. The rain made you earn the tab, not just survive the course. It soaked into your bones so deeply that to this day, a downpour doesn't bother you. You don't run for cover. You don't complain. You smile. Because once upon a time, you were nothing but bones, rags, and resolve, standing in that same rain, leading a squad of other broken men through the dark, all of you pretending to be fine. That's the gift. That's the curse. You walk through life differently now. People don't know why. They don't see the swamp water behind your eyes, the sleepless nights, the night marches in your muscle memory, the 1,000-yard stare you earned one footstep at a time. But you carry it, like the weight of that final ruck, the one where your knees nearly gave out and your thoughts went black around mile 7. But you kept going anyway. Why? Because you were already soaked, already in the rain. And now, years later, no matter what happens, whether life blesses you or breaks you, you know one thing for sure. You'll still be standing when the storm comes. Because once, when everything in you screamed, "Quit," and the sky opened up, and the patrol failed, and your stomach was empty, and your spirit was gone, you looked up and smiled in the rain, because you were still there. You did not break, and you never will. You'll miss it, and hate that you do. No one warns you about this part. They tell you about the suffering, sure. They brief you on the weight loss, the cold, the mind games, the crushing exhaustion that turns your thoughts to mush and your feet into bloodstained bricks. They tell you you'll learn about leadership, about yourself, about how to function on 0 sleep and 0 food and still move mountains, or at least drag one another uphill. But what they don't tell you is that one day, when it's all over, you'll miss it. Not all of it. You won't miss the swamp rot or the taste of those brown MRE peanut butter packs at 2 a.m. You won't miss marching under nods while hallucinating fireflies that speak your name. You won't miss failing patrols for things you can't remember doing. You won't miss the weight of guilt when a teammate gets peered and you wonder if you could have led better. But you'll miss the clarity, because for those 61 days, or longer if you recycled, your life was reduced to something pure. Move, eat, plan, Carry. Endure. Lead. There was no email inbox. No social media. No traffic. No car notes. No ambiguous purpose gnawing at the back of your soul. Just the next task. The next movement. The next challenge. And beside you, always, a group of fellow ghosts, ragged and hollow-eyed, just like you, suffering together, becoming more than the sum of their misery. You'll miss them, most of all, not just the people, the type of people, the ones who didn't need credit, who didn't complain, who would rather suffer in silence than let the squad fail. Men who gave you their last square of toilet paper, their last salt packet, their last whispered piece of advice before stepping under the RI's microscope. Men who were strangers on day one and family by the end. You'll miss that kind of belonging. Civilian life doesn't offer it. Not really. There are jobs, sure, and teams, and small moments of shared stress, but nothing that matches the purity of shared misery with a singular, unyielding goal. Get the mission done or die trying. So you'll go back to your unit, or back to life, with a tab on your shoulder and a memory in your bones. And when someone jokes, you must be glad that's over. You'll smile and nod. But deep down, a part of you will ache. Because you remember the night in Florida phase when you were lying in a patrol base, half buried in mud, and it's crawling into your ears, your stomach eating itself, the rain pouring so hard your hands shriveled like old fruit, and you were happy. Not because you were comfortable, but because you were becoming something. And now you wear a clean uniform. You eat hot food. You sleep in a bed. But sometimes you'd give it all up just to go back for one more patrol, one more march, one more moment of meaning carved out of the darkness with nothing but willpower and whispered cadence. You'll miss it, and you'll hate that you do, because no sane man should. But Rangers aren't sane. They're forged, and the forge leaves a mark.